Okay, so I thought I'd best make another video. It's been a while since I've made one. My next cosplay that I've done has been a femme Han Solo. I've been a Star Wars fan ever since I was a little girl, and Han Solo's pretty much always been my favourite. I also love Boba because everyone loves Boba Fett, but Han Solo is just the ultimate lovable rogue. So I've kind of always wanted to be Han Solo ever since I was a little girl. So I decided my next costume was going to be Han Solo. I don't want to be a boy, basically. I want to be a girl, so it was a femme Han Solo. That was my decision. I have actually already worn this costume. It is complete, so this isn't really a progress video. It's just a video sort of showing how I've approached this costume. I'm still very new to cosplaying. This is only my third ever costume, so please go easy with me on the criticism. Constructive criticism is always welcome, but I'm very new to this. I still don't have a sewing machine, though I have been learning how to hand sew, and you'll see some of that in this costume. Basically, for the bigger parts of his costume, I tried to do... I'm lazy. Let's just go with that. I'm quite lazy. And I tried to do as little work as humanly possible. So for his top, which is a really strange... It's almost like a polo shirt, but with long sleeves and no buttons at the collar, but an actual proper collar. And it's very slightly off-white. In a lot of the toys, they've just done it white, and the figures, he just has a white top, but I really wanted to do it off-white, and I was willing to dye something if that's what it came to. But eBay is the cosplayer's friend, and I came across this top. Now, it's got slight con damage, as all these things have, because like I said, I've worn this to a convention, so bits of it are a bit worse for wear now than when they were new. It was at Manchester MCM that I debuted this costume, and it happened to be one of the hottest days of the year, but it was staggeringly warm and I sweated a lot. And the material, the black jacket that I had, the waistcoat that I had over the top, I sweated that much that the dye actually transferred onto this top. So you can see here that it's actually dyed my top slightly blue-black because of my sweat, which is obviously the most attractive thing in the world. It's long sleeve, it's got the collar, and it's got the neckline almost exactly like his. Yeah, and it's the exact right colour. It probably doesn't show too well on camera, but it's like an off-white beigey ivory, and it's just perfect. It's by the company White Stuff. So if you're a Han Solo cosplayer or a femme Han Solo cosplayer, you might want to look for this top because it's absolutely perfect. And that saved me a lot of work. The other big part of his costume is obviously his trousers. Now, because I'm a femme Han Solo, I decided that leggings might look a bit cooler, and I didn't want to have these big bulky blue cargo pants on either, so I decided to just buy some very dark navy blue leggings, and using my awesome nana who has a sewing machine, I just got some red, I think it's called bias binding or something. I got it from Hobbycraft, it was like £1. I sewed it on, and then I got a little ruler and a blue Sharpie, and I just drew blue stripes on it to make the blood stripes. Easy peasy! That's like the two main parts of his costume done. Easy peasy. The biggest, I say they're the two biggest parts of his costume. They sort of are, but they're sort of the easiest as well. The other two biggest parts of his costumes are obviously his belt and his holster and his waistcoat. The waistcoat, I couldn't find anything like that. I looked for ages for military coats, pea coats, just anything that I could alter, but I couldn't find it. So, with help from my nana, who is awesome and has a sewing machine, as I mentioned, we got some black fabric and drew up a very rough pattern for me, and basically just copied it from stills from the film. This is my waistcoat. So, as you can see, I'll just tilt that up. We've copied all the pockets. These pockets actually work, which was really helpful at convention because I could keep my phone and my money and like a snack in there. You've got one big pocket at the back, which is obviously, again, a working pocket. And then I'm not entirely sure what these are in the film. I'm sure some Star Wars nerd will tell me. And for those, we basically use cardboard. It's just one long length of material sewn onto the back with cardboard sewn in inside, and then basically folded into a concertina shape. They're a bit out of shape at the minute because they've been sat in my cosplay box. Put that back down again. But with a bit of playing around, you actually get that shape. I think they're almost like ammo pockets, but what ammo is that big? And it just really works, and it just looks awesome. So that was the jacket. The other slightly boring bit before I get to the exciting stuff was his boots. Again, not the best choice for one of the hottest days of the year, but hey ho, what are you gonna do? These were an eBay purchase. I have exceptionally large feet for a woman of my size. I'm not particularly tall or particularly big. I'm 5'5", but I have size 9 feet. Yeah, size 9. So I struggle to get shoes. Fortunately, I can just about manage in these. I'm not too squished up, but they were like £7. I don't know who is going to buy these to wear these just out and about normally. They're just bizarre, but for a Star Wars cosplay, I think they're pretty good and very cheap. So the interesting part, the gun and holster. I was determined to tackle this belt and holster by myself, and I didn't really know what I was getting into. It looks easy. When you see pictures of Han Solo, it looks simple, but it really isn't. So again, eBay, best friend, bought a children's blaster. When it arrived, it was, you can actually see it there where the paint's starting to come off, it was bright orange. So a little bit of spray paint, black spray paint, brown spray paint, just rubbed a bit of silver rum buff across the edges, just to make it look like it's metal and it's a bit worn. Rum buff is my best friend. I don't know how people cosplay without silver rum buff, especially when you make armour and things that are supposed to look like metal. Don't understand how you do it without it, but anyway, yeah. So it looks pretty cool. So I knew I'd have to build a holster around that. It's the same brown pleather material I actually used for a lot of Ayala props. Basically, it was no pattern, no method in my madness. I just did it completely on a whim. I basically laid that down against the fabric, drew around it, and just folded it over and tried to sew it. Like, everything is hand sewed because I, again, don't have a sewing machine. So this was what I came up with. It looks a bit messy when it's got no gun in it. It is messy. So, as you can see, cut out that triangle shape that sits across his thigh. Cut out the triangle shape as a separate piece. So this is a separate piece. Then this bit that comes on the top is literally just cut around the gun and sewed on with the absolute messiest hand stitch you've ever seen in your life. It was my first ever attempt at sewing, so, you know, don't argue with me, at least I tried. This is just another piece of material folded over and sewed together, little blob of hot glue with rum buff and Velcro, so I can get my gun in and out when I need to pose for photographs. Now, these are the interesting bit. I got them cut out of plastic. They're quite raggedy, they're not perfect, but I didn't want to do anything that wasn't strong enough. These are really, really strong. And obviously I've just sewn them to the straps. The straps are just folded over at the back and sewn together. And then these, just to make it look like I've bothered with rivets and bolts, hot glue and rub and buff again. But these work really well because my belt is, again, a cheap leather belt off eBay. I got the biggest size I could get. Although I'm not a particularly big girl, I know it's going to sit around my hips rather than my waist. There's a little bolt there that I've put through the leather, if you can see. That's not going to move ever. And then the plastic, basically a bigger hole going into a smaller hole, so it goes like that. Pull it down and it's locked. So that can just hang, that just hangs off now when I'm stood up. I'll put pictures on of me wearing it in a minute in full costume so you can see how it looks. But it's just a really good way to make sure it's going to stay on. Now, obviously, Han has a very, very strange buckle at the front. So for that, I made it out of craft foam, because craft foam is my best friend. I basically just glued it onto a belt buckle. I bought a very cheap, plain buckle, which is that black thing there. I think it was like piano keys. And then I just glued that onto the actual belt buckle, so obviously when it's done up, it looks like that. That goes inside there. and clips onto the buckle. So it's coming out of it. Ta-da! None of this I thought about when I decided to be Han Solo. This belt is much more trouble than it looks. But it's worth it because you get to be Han Solo for the day, and that is awesome. So yeah, the rest of the belt is pretty easy in comparison. The little pockets and things are literally just made out of the same brown leather that the holster's made out of. I cut the shapes out of a cereal box. It's like being on Blue Peter. And just wrapped the brown pleather around them. The droid collar is made out of various bizarro things. The toilet roll is its primary body. And then it's just bits of craft foam, bits of scrap bits. Painted it black and silver. So I just got a little scrap of the brown pleather, and just did that as like a little strap so it doesn't fall. This is all a bit con damaged because I've already worn it. And obviously I've been jostled about in crowds and been posing and getting my gun in and out constantly, so it needs a little bit of TLC again before I get to wear it again. So I'll now post some pictures so you can see what it all looked like together and how the belt looked and how it sat. I hope that was vaguely interesting for any Star Wars fans or people that are thinking of cosplaying Lovely Han or a Femme Han. If you're a crossplayer or a gender bender like me, I hope that was helpful. Like I say, very new to this, so constructive criticism is totally welcome, but really try and be nice because I work really hard on this on the few hours a week that I get to myself. But yeah, I hope that helps and I really appreciate you watching. Thanks guys.